Greetings, friends of the universe. Today we are going to discuss the tall whites. Who are the tall white extraterrestrials? Where do they come from? And what are they doing on our planet? Let's start. The tall whites are often mistaken as Pleiadians due to some of their physical appearances, but they are very different from them. Charles Hall, a former U.S. Air Force veteran, claims that the United States military have had contact and worked alongside this extraterrestrial race, called the tall whites, since the 50s. Charles Hall describes these beings as more than 8 feet tall and humanoid in appearance. They have blonde white hair and a substantial muscular frame. Although they are highly individualistic, one similar characteristic is that they all have white, chalky complexions. Their skin is completely white and their hips are shaped like ours, but they walk quite differently since they are used to a stronger gravity pull. They typically can be seen wearing aluminized jumpsuits, and their lifespan is around 800 years. Charles Hall states that they do not age as we do, but at about 400 Earth years, they undergo a second stage of growth, eventually reaching about 8 feet tall. They are extremely intelligent and process information on a speed several times faster than humans. They have individual talents, differing intellectual capabilities, and physical features. Their technology is way more advanced than our own. The tall white extraterrestrials usually communicate telepathically, but they also use telekinesis. What is interesting about them is that according to Charles Hall, they have 28 numbers of teeth, and their blood cells are biconvex in shape in compared to that of the humans, having concave blood cells. The sleeping pattern of the tall whites is also different to those of humans. On their planet, days are longer, and they usually stay awake for 2 Earth days, and then followed by sleeping the same amount of time. The origin and the location of their planet is still unknown to us, but the star Arcturus seems to be very important to them. Charles Hall, by the telepathic link they often established with him, was able to perceive that the star Arcturus, or something close to that star, is very important to them. Their ultimate home may be somewhere else. In recent correspondence, this is what Charles Hall stated. I was never able to determine which star the tall whites called their home star. However, my best guess was a star that is roughly 105 light-years away. Here is a short interview with Charles Hall regarding the existence of the tall white extraterrestrials with which he interacted and met while serving in the U.S. Air Force at the Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Do you ever wonder what might lie out there deep in space? Do you want to believe we're not alone, that somewhere in the universe, intelligent life may actually exist?
Our next guest says there is life out there. It does exist. Dr. Charles Hall says he spent 2 years working with extraterrestrial beings during his time with the American military. He claims the US military has actually been in contact with alien species for years. And Dr. Charles Hall is here to explain, along with his wife Marie, live from what Bugs Bunny used to call Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now, thank you both for your time. Terrific to have you with us. Firstly, Charles, can you tell us your story of how you managed to come into contact with these beings as you worked with the military?
I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I enlisted in the Air Force in July 1964, and I was trained as a weather observer. And I was sent to Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada, outside Las Vegas, Nevada. And for 2.5 years, I was sent up to the gunnery ranges up at Indian Springs, and I was given a clearance to allow me to go anywhere in Dreamland as long as I was alone. I discovered that up there at the north end of Indian Springs Valley, which you can see on the map in the state of Nevada here in America, that there was a base which the U.S. Air Force maintained for a group of extraterrestrials who were tall and white. And I, as the duty weather observer, was allowed to go up there, or they were allowed to come down to where I was. And the interaction took place over more than 2 years.
Wow.
During those 2 years, I also came across, I also interacted to a lesser extent with the Roswell Greys, and I've also personally talked with the extraterrestrials that I call the Norwegians with 24 teeth, who come here from a very nearby star, perhaps Bernard star. And my experiences, my presentations, my books are unique because I'm the only person that I know of that was allowed to interact with the extraterrestrials, the tall whites, for more than 2 years.
So 3 different species of aliens you're talking about there, Charles.
Yeah, can you describe what they look like, what they were like?
Well, I'll start with the tall whites. They're thinner than we are, and they're very frail. Throughout most of their life, they are the same height as I am, 5'11", but they live 10 times longer than humans. They live 600 or 800 years.
Wow.
But they don't age the way we do. When they get to be equivalent to a human of about 40 years, that means when they're about 400 years, they start growing again instead of aging as humans.
Right.
And then they go, and this continues, and so that by the time they get to be 600 or 800 years old, they're very tall, 8.5, 9, or 10 feet tall. But this is not necessarily good because their skeleton grows more than their internal organs. And so there comes a time after 600 or 800 years when their skeleton, their body is tall, but their organs can't support it.
The
at
organism.
which time they die a natural death, because they're just flesh and blood creatures like we are. If they injure themselves, it takes them 10 times longer to heal up than a human.
Yeah.
So there's a trade-off.
Yeah, right. They still look fresh as a daisy when they go, though. They look like Tilda Swinton. Hey, just quickly, you had them there. You were working with the aliens on any particular project, or was the military working with the aliens on a particular project? Was there, I don't know, technology sharing or, you know, botanical cross-fertilisation?
The U.S. Air Force, and I'm speaking of the mid-1960s, was willing to give them anything they asked for. When I first met them, I was very afraid of them, and every human I met when you come across them out in the desert was naturally very afraid of them, and they were even more afraid of us. It's like running into a gorilla in the wild where the gorilla is on his home ground. So they had to go through a process of becoming used to being around humans before they could take part in the technology transfer program. I, as the weather observer, was the test human. As an enlisted man, I was expendable, you know.
Sure.
I was the one they send out to and say, practice talking to Charlie. And
Marie, let's bring you in. You've never seen these things for yourself. Are you a believer? Because probably a lot of people watching this morning are going to think, I don't believe him. It's ridiculous. How could it be possible?
Well, Charles was very intelligent in that he waited until we'd been married a couple of months before he told me about the extraterrestrials coming into his barracks at night. And he said, well, what do you think? And I said, I really don't care. I have never given any thought as to whether they exist or not, and I really don't care. I've known Charles. We've been married over 43 years. He may be a character, but I am his character reference, and I totally believe that this is real. Furthermore, we have had confirmations from people all over the world. We have never had any serious tire kickers,
Yeah,
people
yeah.
who say, well,
Certainly there seems to be a lot of people, around the world who would support your view on this, who seem to have had their own experiences, but probably not quite as intimately as you. Now, unfortunately, we are going to have to leave it there, Charles and Marie, because we're about to lose our satellite, but you're coming to Australia next week to give a series of
That's
talks, and we
We
can't
can
wait to
hardly
see you.
wait.
Yeah.
And all the details of your tour will be on our website, so those interested in the life beyond
There you
will
go.
no doubt be there.
Thank you.
Good one.
Many different people report seeing or meeting these tall white beings in our modern days, but what is very interesting is that there are many records from our history which also suggest the existence and visitation of these extraterrestrials on our planet thousands of years ago. Throughout history, many cultures claim to have had encounters from white beings from the skies. Several myths and stories described them as tall and slender people with white skin, blue eyes, and white hair. In South America, in the Inca mythology, Viracocha are interpreted as white masters from the skies. According to the Incas, the white masters shared teachings of astronomy, the calendar, craftsmanship, and spirituality. Because of the tall whites visiting the Incas considered them as gods, and Spanish chroniclers from the 16th century claimed that when the conquistadors, led by Francisco Pizarro, first encountered the Incas, they were greeted as gods, Viracachas, because their lighter skin resembled that of the tall whites. Furthermore, in Persian mythology, the name Ahura Mazda means spirits of wisdom. The Ahura Mazda has said to have shared his teachings with the locals. They have been described as white spirits who flew in shining discs. Moreover, in America, the Hopi Indians encountered the Pahana. Pahana means white brother from the skies. The White Brothers is said to have given spiritual understandings of philosophical nature to the Native American people. To this very day, the Hopi Indians awaits the return of the Pahana, their true white brothers. Furthermore, in the country of India, the name Vayu has the meaning of the white gods of the wind. The white gods is said to have shared ancient knowledge with the native people, and the god Vishnu is said to return to the people in a day in his choosing, accompanied by beautiful white horses. According to ancient Sanskrit literature, it described a world filled with ancient flying vehicles called vimanas. These massive crafts are said to be controlled by the mind and to be chariots of the gods from the skies. We can find many depictions of their spacecrafts from ancient drawings. As far as Moses was concerned, the spaceship was God's residence, and the rest of the crew was God's angels. The spacecraft technology of the tall whites developed drastically throughout history. Charles Hall witnessed 3 different types of spacecrafts, ranging in size from a small nuclear-powered scout crafts to a large interstellar crafts able to travel faster than the speed of light. This large black craft was approximately 70 feet high and 360 feet long. Hall said the technology of the small craft was shared with the military, but the large craft remains a mystery. This is what Charles Hall said regarding their hangar and living facilities. I was able to observe the repair facilities from a short distance, and to the best of my knowledge, I am the only person allowed to view these facilities. The American generals would do anything to maintain good relations with the tall whites in order to get their technology. The exchange was done on the basis of what would benefit the tall whites, and they sometimes participated in classified meetings, helping with technology development. Charles Hall said he saw them together many times and even sat together across negotiating tables. Hall said the military definitely supplied the tall whites with any type of food requested, but noticed them carrying prepared bags of what looked like mushroom pudding. Hall surmised they were plant eaters, as he noticed them collecting seeds on various occasions, and just like most of the developed extraterrestrial races, they do not eat meat. It is also rumored that President Eisenhower had a secret meeting with a group of tall white extraterrestrials who were attempting to convince the United States to disarm its nuclear missile program in exchange for advanced technology. The event is said to have taken place in February 1954 at Edwards Air Force Base under the guise of Eisenhower undergoing emergency dental surgery, which of course is a lie and a cover. It is believed that this meeting did not end with any sort of agreement. Instead, Eisenhower is thought to have entered into a treaty with the Gray Aliens, a pact which ensured that the U.S. could keep its nuclear arsenal while still receiving advanced technologies from the extraterrestrials. In exchange for this technological intel, the Gray Aliens would be allowed to abduct and experiment upon the American people without question. Mr. Charles Hall said that the tall whites did not pose any threat to humans and were principally engaged in a technology transfer with the United States government. He said that they were housed at the base and only used Earth as a base for their deep space travel and had no ulterior motive to colonize our planet or dominate national governments. On October 21, 1954, in West Midlands, Staffordshire, England, Jessie Rostenberg and her 2 children witnessed an object flying overhead, then hovering over her house. They also saw 2 humanoid figures with blonde, golden hair staring down at them. She described them as very beautiful, with beautiful faces. Many believe this were tall whites, and some believe they were Pleiadians. This video of Jessie Rostenberg explaining the incredible event was banned from airing on TV in the United Kingdom. This is the video.
Staffordshire's had a whole crop of flying saucers. Spots in the sky, lights in the sky, strange things. But the strangest of all was seen one day over this cottage. Mr. and Mrs. Rostenberg were living there quietly out in the country. And, well, you just tell me what you saw.
Well, it was one ordinary day. I was waiting for my husband to come home from work, and my 2 sons went to Seifert to school, and I was getting changed, and I heard this terrific noise. It was just like a giant cauldron of water being poured onto a fire, a shh sort of noise, you know. And the first reaction was, oh, the children. I thought maybe a plane was crashing or something like that. And I slipped my jumper on and went outside to find my 2 sons lying flat on the ground in the garden in front of the house, shouting, "Mummy, Mummy, there's a flying saucer." Well, naturally, I just said, "Come on, don't be stupid. Come in the house." But felt sort of a strange sensation. Wended my way up the side of the house to where we had a pump where we used to get all our water from, and automatically looked up to see this, all I can describe, this huge Mexican hat. It was stationary, this thing, and it was bright silver in colour, and it had a dome. It was tilted to sort of, I could see the occupants in it.
You saw people in it?
I saw people in it. There were 2 people in there. These people were beautiful people. That's the only way I can describe them. They had long golden hair, like a page boy bob, just like the old kings. You used to see photographs of the old kings. And the colour of the hair was golden. Now, I was really...
What were they dressed in?
They had a sort of a polo-neck jumper affair, like a ski top suit, in pale blue. Now, these people weren't sat behind, one behind the other. They were sat together, but this, whatever it was tilted so that I could see them and they could see me.
Were you looking at them through windows, through portholes, or...?
No, not portholes. It was just sort of like a cockpit, I suppose. But had this perspex or glass or whatever it was. They could see me anyway, and I could see them. And they had beautiful faces. I shall never forget their faces as long as I live. their foreheads seemed to be a bit larger than, you know, the bottom of their faces as normal people you would expect to see. But maybe this was just whatever they had round their heads, which was like a transparent fishbowl. And they just looked, and I was absolutely paralytic with fear. I couldn't move, although my mind was ticking over. And they looked so sympathetic that I was just mesmerized for what seemed to be, ages, but it could have only been seconds. And I turned to sort of look down at the boys, was unaware that they were with me because I was so absorbed. And the next thing, I looked up and it was gone.
How low had it been?
It had been, the height, I couldn't tell you. But the house that you've seen, it was just on top of the roof. It was hovering on top of the roof.
How big was it compared with the size of the house?
It swallowed the whole circumference of the roof. I couldn't see, the roof was completely blotted out. The chimneys I couldn't see. All I could see was this massive object that I described as like a Mexican hat without the bubbles.
And then it flew away sideways or upwards?
No, I didn't see. I just looked up and it had gone. But I assume it went straight up, because for a short while after in the sky I looked around and I said to my two boys, "Well, can you see anything? Can you see anything?" And they said, "There it is, Mum," and they pointed up, and I watched it. It was just like a little cotton reel in the sky, and it circled us 3 times. It went round 3 times, and then it just shut off, and that was it. When I started to analyse myself afterwards, I feared that I might have had an hallucination, but then I knew I hadn't had, because my sons were so sure about what they'd seen and what I'd seen. And it went through my mind that it was a secret weapon from Russia, and then I thought, well, it can't be that, because if they had something like that, they wouldn't need to fear anybody or anything.
Were you scared by it? Did you run indoors?
Oh, I was petrified. I couldn't move. I couldn't move a muscle. I was paralyzed with fear. But now I wouldn't be. Because now, when I look back, you know, I think, what an amazing thing to have happened, and for me to have seen it.
And when your husband came home, where were you?
Well, when my husband came home from the office, I was locked in the house with my children, under a big kitchen table that we were using.
Under the table?
Under the table, yes. It's funny now when I look back, you know, it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but this is the truth. This happened. And that's it. We were ridiculed. It was very embarrassing at the time, and people, they possibly thought, oh, she's a nutter. But, you know, who cares? This is something that happened to me, and I'm a practically minded person, and that's it.
Do you believe the incredible story described by Jesse Rostenberg? Write your opinion on the comment section. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and click the notification button to get notified for our future videos.